Welcome to Lucerne in Switzerland. We are currently witnessing large construction just outside of the main train station in the central Swiss city, that being the restyling of several bus platforms to allow through traffic. Seeing this construction site as well as what the future holds for Lucerne, now is a good time to take a look back to a project that was completed just under 5 years ago, and which compared to other projects seems relatively small, but one that is of very big importance, especially looking towards the future at the underground station in Lucerne. As mentioned, the city of Lucerne lies in the heart of Switzerland, at the northern end of the lake of the same name, at least in English. The city has a population of around 80,000 people, which by Swiss standards is relatively big, the capital having a bit less than 140,000. However, in terms of rail connection, it is rather underwhelming, which is due to its unique position, being relatively far away from the next biggest hubs, Olten and Zurich, and as such being neither a full nor half hub, which is important for connections. Lucerne lies pretty far away from the usual band of cities, as well as the fact that it has a rail terminus station, which further complicates everything. Generally, connection times here are longer than typically expected, often reaching 20 minutes. Despite the fact that it isn't optimally connected, Lucerne is the starting point for both the Brünig and Engelberg railways, both owned by the Zentralbahn, which came about after a merger of both lines in 2004. As mentioned in previous videos, the two railways go all the way to the two tourist destinations Engelberg and Interlaken. However, it also services the valley parts of both lines, which are dotted with towns and villages, as well as the southern part of Lucerne, these being mostly serviced by the S-Bahn lines. Ever since the creation of the Zentralbahn, it has had to deal with ever-increasing passenger numbers, like the first S-Bahn train sets which they desperately needed in 2004, and this trend hasn't stopped. This shouldn't be surprising as all of Switzerland has been dealing with this, but we are talking about a relatively small mountain railway which wouldn't even get built in the modern day in most places. For people outside of Europe or even Switzerland, this increase in passenger traffic can seem surprising, as it is not only the end destinations that have increased in passenger numbers. As a result, in the past 20 years, the company has massively upgraded the line, as well as their fleet. Fleet-wise, brand new Fink and Adler trains were delivered, with even more of those two variants on the way currently. And as for the network, expansion has been awesome. The density of trains has been increased with more frequent S-Bahn trains. Both Sarnen and Stans get a consistent 30-minute service, in addition to the interregio services, and that excludes the additional rush hour trains. With tracks, several big projects were completed. The much delayed Engelberg tunnel, which replaced the original insanely steep approach to Engelberg in 2010, the double track segment between Kregiswil and Sarnen, opening up a new station just north of it, another double track segment up until Hedgiswil Mott, which led to a complete renovation, and of course, in my opinion the most important build, the Almen tunnel just south of Lucerne, which replaced the old single track line through the city, and which also had another new station as a consequence. We are not talking about any of these in this video, as we will be looking at a project that started just around 5 years ago, and which finally eliminated, without a doubt, the nastiest bottleneck in the entire system, the double track extension from the Langensand bridge all the way into the main station, continuing from the point where the previous expansion in 2012 ended. That tunnel not only improved the line itself by no longer going through the city and having a new station, but it also extended the system's double track from Nietfeld all the way to the Langensand bridge. However, the approach to Lucerne, measuring approximately 250 meters, remained single track. This became an even bigger problem as more trains were planned to run. This not only includes the still current plans of an additional train to Engelberg, but especially the planned S41 rush hour service between Lucerne and Horw. With the single track approach, handling these additional trains would have simply become too much to handle, as bottlenecks become increasingly unreliable with more waiting times. Combined with the fact that, as mentioned, that Zentralbahn has been seeing an ever-increasing amount of passengers, which continues to this day, it was only a matter of time before a double track segment would be built, and it was. Even though I was quite a bit younger back then, I went to see the construction site several times over several months to witness the progress. The date will always be shown in the corner. The double track segment was built from 2020 to 2021, and it was put into service in November of that year, with the whole construction costing around 70 million francs, which seems to be equal to 74.6 million francs in today's money. That equates to around 80 million euros, 68.5 million pounds, or 91.5 million US dollars. This at first seems like a very high amount to invest for a segment of only 250 meters, but that was only a part of the construction, and obviously the main attraction. Construction took place during active service, with there only being a 1 month closure for trains from October to November of 2021, with there also being quite a bit of work happening after the double track segment was put into service. Furthermore, remember how the Zentralbahn and SBB tracks share the same station? The tracks cross one another as the SBB train stabling also lies in this area here. That was what made this project so big and expensive, as in total 6 kilometers of tracks had to be newly laid down and over 40 switches were rebuilt. The route the tracks take has also been changed noticeably, with the tracks now taking a curved approach rather than a straight line. Hey, now the track is just as straight as me, and as such, a lot of space in this area was able to be freed up. Another major change were the number of intersections with the SBB tracks. As the Zentralbahn has been and will be running even more trains, the time for SBB trains to shunt in and out will decrease significantly. In order for the double track to be used at maximum capacity, the SBB stabling tracks now only have a single track crossing the Zentralbahn line, down from the initial 3, which can be seen in this onboard video from 2015. This is a very important development for the future, especially when thinking about the underground station at Lucerne, which will hopefully finally be built. Once this happens, the stabling tracks will be moved to Dietikere, which will free up even more space, especially for new city developments. You can even see the former track, which used to be the second intersection, which now ends abruptly. As mentioned, the double track went into service in November 2021, and the S41 was able to start its regular service in December. And that was pretty much the entire project. Yep, the background information and potential for the future clearly took up a bigger picture here, but that is the nature of this project. The effects of this project are even more meaningful for the future, and less for the immediate aftermath. However, there is another very interesting construction project, which is the new bike path, which forms a new bypass around the notorious Bundesplatz roundabout. With a bike, it is genuinely terrifying to ride here. The bypass will provide a safer and more comfortable ride to the train station when arriving from the south. I will make a video about this once it is finished and ready. Swissy while editing here, while making this video, the bike path, well, it was completed and it is now in operation. So that's that. And that means that hopefully I will make a video about this as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know I have been focusing more on producing German videos, as I realize that there seem to be way more German-speaking people interested in the regional projects in Switzerland. The recent video on a rural tunnel project absolutely shot through the roof to the point that I couldn't believe my own eyes. I won't give up making English videos, however. I will continue to upload bilingually. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.